critics who are upset over his plans to visit President Trump at the White House.
I'm not playing this game that you mean girls play.
Yes.
Where like, oh, you know what? You can't sit at my lunch table because I'm just not talking to you. And you also have to respect that, you know, the guy did win. It's more than half the country or whatever. I mean, you know,
Yes.
I keep saying it. I'm not going to hate. You can not like Trump. You can hate him. You can't hate everybody who vote for him.
Yes.
I don't hate half the country, and I don't want to hate half the country.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not where my mind ever wants to go for my own mental health.
Yeah.
Is all this hate.
Yeah.
So yes, I will talk to anybody.
Yeah.
And it's you know, it's an honor to be invited to the White House under any circumstances.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to pre-hate everything Trump does. That one line, coolly delivered by Bill Maher, sent a shockwave through political media last week. In a time when nearly every conversation about Donald Trump devolves into a shouting match, Maher's calm rejection of partisan hysteria stood out like a flare in the fog.
Trump won all the swing states, all 7. I mean, he ran the table. Trump won so big. Today he called the Secretary of State in Georgia and he asked him to lose him 11,000. California is projected to lose 3 seats, New York 2. Also going to lose a seat, Minnesota, Oregon, Rhode Island, Illinois, all blue states. Who's getting these? Texas, Florida, Idaho, and Utah. I mean, this looks like game over.
It wasn't just what he said, it was the way he said it. Confident, measured, defiant. And it was aimed squarely at one of the media's most vocal Trump critics, an MSNBC host whose recent remarks about the former president sparked fierce debate. What followed was a moment of clarity in a storm of noise. A veteran political commentator pushing back against the echo chamber, challenging the idea that you have to despise everything Trump does to prove your moral worth. And now, the internet is on fire, some calling Maher a truth teller, others branding him an enabler. So what really went down between Bill Maher and MSNBC? And why does it matter right now more than ever? Let's break it down.
Well, I guess I'm the silly girl. Listen, he's talking Trump's book, which he needs to do right now as Donald Trump's Commerce Secretary. But the last time we imposed tariffs like this and engaged in a tariff war, it was 100 years ago, and it didn't just lead to a recession. It led to a depression. And I just want to say this about the tariffs. The spirit of them, I get.
The exit poll said he grabbed 52% of white women. He also got their votes.
The recent exchange between Bill Maher and an MSNBC host has become one of the most talked about media moments of 2025. It wasn't just a clash of opinions, it was a clash of worldviews. Maher, the longtime host of Real Time and more recently, Club Random, has always positioned himself as a self-described old-school liberal. But more and more, he's found himself distancing from what he sees as an increasingly ideological and reactionary media, especially outlets like MSNBC. The controversy unfolded during a conversation on Maher's Club Random podcast, where he questioned the tendency of left-leaning media to reject anything and everything associated with Trump, regardless of context. He didn't defend Trump's past actions, but he did criticize what he sees as a media strategy rooted in blind opposition.
Isn't it amazing, though, that they're almost the same age, and yet Biden is like crypt keeper, kind of like
Well, that's genetics.
Skeletor, well, or how we treat ourselves.
Absolutely.
Whereas Trump, almost the same age, and I used to say it in my act, like it was like he puts on the wig and the face paint, and he's like Kiss in 1976. It's like he hasn't changed a day. Nothing is different. He's got a brand, which was kind of brilliant.
Dude's
like
got more energy.
more
go, and wants to win at every level,
But he does not present as old.
In the hyper-polarized world of modern news, where tribal loyalty often trumps thoughtful debate, Maher's words struck a nerve. As we dig deeper into this exchange, it's clear this isn't just about Trump. It's about how we consume media, how we form opinions, and what happens when someone dares to color outside the lines. In response, Maher made his position clear. being anti-Trump doesn't mean abandoning objectivity. On Club Random, he explained that while he strongly disagrees with Trump on many issues and has criticized him often, he refuses to participate in the pre-hate mentality. In Maher's view, the media's job is not to reflexively attack, but to evaluate every issue on its own merits.
All of this can be overwhelming, but it is important to remember there are still checks and balances. There's a lot being thrown at the American people right now, and it is really important to pay attention to it. But it is just as important to recognize how many of those things are getting announced, but they're not happening at all, or at least not yet. Just try to remember.
He has an amazing coalition. He kept the old crowd that likes him. He got a lot of new voters. He got a lot of people who say they just want to see what he'll do. I call this the get the cat high vote.
He pointed to examples of media narratives that were driven more by emotion than analysis, such as assuming Trump's every move is sinister without even waiting for the facts. Maher warned that this kind of behavior weakens the media's credibility and gives Trump more ammunition to claim he's being unfairly persecuted. Importantly, Maher wasn't defending Trump's character, he was defending critical thinking. His larger argument? That political discourse has become so toxically polarized, many Americans now operate in mental autopilot, automatically opposing anything their opponents say, no matter what. This tribal mentality, Maher argued, is what keeps us divided, and it's infecting the media at large. The key moment that lit up social media came when Maher calmly said, "I'm not going to pre-hate everything. There's a list of things I don't hate that a lot of everybody on the MSNBC world automatically hates the whole list. I'm not that guy, and I don't want to be that guy." That moment was a mic drop. It wasn't delivered with anger. It wasn't performative. It was real. And that authenticity hit harder than any viral takedown could have. It exposed the performative outrage that often dominates cable news. And it reminded audiences that calm, reasoned pushback can be more devastating than shouting. Viewers on X flooded timelines with reactions. Some hailed Maher as a voice of reason, with one user writing, "Bill Maher just said what a lot of people have been afraid to admit. You don't have to hate everything Trump does to be a decent person." Others disagreed, calling Maher's comments reckless and tone-deaf, especially in an election year when, in their view, media unity against Trump is essential. This exchange between Bill Maher and the MSNBC host is more than a viral moment. It's a cultural Rorschach test, depending on your perspective. Maher is either a dangerous contrarian giving aid to Trumpism, or he's a courageous truth-teller trying to rescue rational thought from a sea of partisan noise. What can't be denied is the significance of what this conversation reveals. The growing frustration many Americans feel toward a media landscape that often feels more like a battleground than a forum for ideas. Maher's calm dismantling of MSNBC's absolutism struck a chord because it voiced what many think but are afraid to say, that it's okay to think critically, even about people you don't like. Ultimately, the Maher-MSNBC showdown reflects a deeper crisis in media: the inability or unwillingness to engage in good faith discourse. And as we head into another chaotic election cycle, these tensions aren't going anywhere. If anything, they're just heating up. Now, we want to hear from you. Do you agree with Maher's take? Is the media too biased against Trump, or is that bias justified? Can we truly separate facts from feelings in a hyper-polarized age? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Be respectful, be bold, and most of all, be honest. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and check out our other videos covering the biggest media moments shaking up the political world today.